Hello everyone, this is Ashish Kumar, Assistant Professor at MIT Muzaffarpur. We are going to have the lecture on a specification for civil engineering project, and in this part we are going to have the basic of it. So without further delay, we start with it. So what are the learning outcomes of this series is basically we are going to have the series of a specification. So at the end of this series, participants will be able to understand the concept of specification. So I am going to deal with the specification for civil engineering works. So you will be able to understand why and how it is needed. The another thing we are going to have it is like analyze the specification of various component of civil engineering project, and then we are going to evaluate the specification for different components material for different categories of work. So these are the learning outcomes for you. So what is a specification? For first we will deal with it. So what Google says, it is an act of identifying something precisely or of stating a precise requirement. So for our civil engineering works, let's say you are talking about some cement. So this cement have different physical and chemical properties. So physical and chemical property what we have, which kind of cement you are asking, whether you are asking for OPC 43 grade or OPC ordinary 53 grade, or you want a PSC cement or you want PPC cement. So this has to be clear about so uh, so it is a precise requirement you need to identify. So accordingly a precise requirement you are giving for understanding to the both the parties or whatever the parties you have. Let's say you have different parties like contractor, then consultant, and maybe your client, that is government officials. So it should be identified clearly which kind of specification you want for your uh, project or a particular item. So it is an act for either identification whether that is there or not, or precising your requirement. The other definition, other meaning is a detailed description of the design, whatever design you are proposing, the detailed description of design and materials used to make something. If you are trying to make something like you are trying to make a building, so you have different kind of design for this building. So it should be clearly identify which design you are talking and what are the materials requirement you have. So for identification or whether producing the requirement, that is the true meaning of a specification what we have. You have two types of specification basically. One is general specification. So general specification is also termed as brief specification. So sometimes people say brief specification or general specification. So it is a brief description about the materials to be used, types of construction, or nature and class of work. So basically, in general specification or brief specification, you are talking about the materials, what type of materials you need, type of construction, which type of construction, whether it is like framed structure or maybe you have the masonry structure or something like that, and nature and class of work, basically which class and which nature of the work you want. So that is there with the type of specification. So this briefly we are trying to identify the specification. In detailed specification, you are trying to have the different components. What are the components you have for a particular uh, building? You might be having the footing. With in footing also you have a different component. Maybe you might have PCC, maybe you have the brickwork, or maybe something like some other thing is also there. So even in the roof, you have like roof with your cement, concrete, RCC. Again, the reinforcement used, it is different. So the all the components we are trying to identify. Then details of materials constituents. What are the materials you have? So like in roof you have different kind of material you need. Like you need reinforcement. Then your concrete, again concrete constitute of various things. You have water, then fine aggregate, then coarse aggregate, then cement. Maybe if you have fly ash, or maybe you can need a mixture also sometimes. So which admixture we are talking, which fine aggregate you are talking, which coarse aggregate you are talking, or which cement you are talking, which fly ash you are talking. So details of material constituents also it is provided, and its quantities, like how much percentage of cement is needed, how much percentage of fine aggregate is needed, and the quantities or their proportions we are talking. Again we are talking about workmanship. That means how this work is being done, regarding the labor requirement and the maybe machinery requirement, etc. And then you have the construction methodology, which construction methodology we are trying to follow. So these all things are there in detailed specification. So this is regarding the type of specification. Then why do we need an specification actually? So why do we need a specification? So there or maybe we can say the what is the importance of specification. So first, to make all party aware about the type of materials, constituents and properties of materials. It should be we are trying to reduce the conflict between the party. We are trying to reduce the conflict between the party. Means conflict means basically you have a government officer, government engineer to the project, and you have a contractor who is trying to build something based upon the contract what he got through tender. So this contractor is trying to make something, but engineer is not satisfied with his performance. So there must be some parameters based upon that he is either not satisfied or he is trying to build. So these is for reducing the conflict between both the parties. You need to have the proper specification of materials, their constituent and properties of materials. Also, for reaching the cost, we need to have a specification for various items, and depending upon the availability of fonts, we can prescribe different specification also. Uh, so reaching out the cost also, you need a specification which quality of materials you need. Glass, let's talk about the glass door. So in glass door you can find 10,000 rupees glass door is also there, but you have 1 lakh rupees glass door is also there. Definitely the both specification for both the glass doors will be different, but depending upon the finances you can propose, and depending upon the quality what you are expecting, you can propose the different specification. Then basically it terms about the how the qualities is, and how much and it's give the importance regarding the quantities also, what is the proportions and all. Also it help in workmanship and machineries also. So a specification has great role to play regarding the workmanship and what are the requirement of the machineries, and to conduct quality control for by the different parties. So you have some contractor is building something, and some supervisor is trying to supervise his work. So he will do based upon the specification only, to set out the priorities. What are the priorities you have based upon to setting up that also you need a specification. To define the methodology of construction, you need a specification. And what actually CPWD writes about the specification, the specification not only give the standard for building materials, but also serve as a guideline for execution of works and measurement and rates. So basically what is CPW is trying to say, you are trying to they are trying to say it is helpful for execution of works and measurements and rates and adaptive. So thank you so much. We dealt about the introduction of or basics of specification. In next class, we will see the specification for different materials, a specification prescribed by different agencies and their publications also. And and other classes we will deal about the what are the generic specification for a particular items. So thank you and stay tuned.